Hello and welcome back to Greenhill Gaming, where I share my passion of video games with the whole wide world. In this live stream discussion, I'll be discussing the possibility that Nintendo may be playing with power again. So, sit back, relax, but as always, and more importantly, enjoy the live stream. And please join in on the discussion. Let me know what you think. Do you think that Nintendo could be playing with power again? I'd love to hear from you. Please feel free to join in on the discussion. Save my voice. Don't let me do all the talking. Okay. So, Nintendo used to have a slogan. In fact, two specific slogans. Now you're playing with power. And now you're playing with super power. Now you're playing with power was the slogan Nintendo used when marketing the Nintendo Entertainment System. And now you're playing with superpower was the slogan Nintendo used when marketing the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. The Nintendo Entertainment System was a powerful console, and it outperformed any other gaming system on the market at the time of launch. The same with the Super Nintendo. The Super Nintendo was a powerful console that outperformed any other gaming system on the market, including the Sega Mega Drive. The Nintendo 64 had superior visuals to the PlayStation 1. The Nintendo 64 was a powerful console. No. Nintendo decided to continue to use cartridge-based media with the Nintendo 64, which meant that Nintendo were left behind in the area of having more memory and content and stuff like cutscenes and CD quality audio. Nintendo were left behind in areas like that with the Nintendo 64 because of their choice to continue with cartridge-based media, whereas Sony PlayStation used CD-ROM technology with the PlayStation, meaning that PlayStation games had a lot more content, had a lot more to add into the game, including CD quality music and video cutscenes. Regardless, the Nintendo 64 was a powerful console, and it had better overall visuals to the Sony PlayStation. The Nintendo GameCube was a powerful console. In fact, it was the most powerful console of that generation. Have a gander at games like Resident Evil Remake, Resident Evil 0, and Resident Evil 4. GameCube was a pretty powerful piece of hardware. The Nintendo Wii was not a powerful console. because it was significantly inferior in the area of power compared to PlayStation and Xbox's next systems, the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360. Those consoles were HD consoles. Those consoles were beefy. They had really raw horsepower. They were really powerful pieces of hardware, and the Nintendo Wii was significantly inferior. The Nintendo Wii was a standard definition console with hardware, again, that was significantly weaker than PS3 and Xbox 360. That was the first time in the history of Nintendo and the gaming industry that Nintendo were not playing with power. And it has been like that in the gaming industry and with Nintendo ever since. The Wii U wasn't a powerful console compared to the PS4 and the Xbox One. Even the current Nintendo system, the Nintendo Switch, is not a powerful console, even compared to PS4 and Xbox One, let alone PS5 and Xbox Series X. Mind you, the Nintendo Switch is a fantastic piece of hardware for what it is, essentially a tablet with two controllers attached to it. The Nintendo Switch is using an NVIDIA chip from 2015. The Switch was launched in 2017. So all things considering, the fact that you can have Mortal Kombat 11 and soon to be Mortal Kombat 1 running on Nintendo Switch hardware in 60 frames per second, both in handheld mode and docked mode, is a pretty remarkable achievement nonetheless. But irregardless, the Nintendo Switch is not a powerful console, and it has inferior hardware compared to PS4 and PS5. But with the Nintendo Switch 2 on the horizon, the question has to be asked, especially considering all the various reports that are doing the rounds on the gaming media with Switch 2. The question has to be asked, is Nintendo playing with power again? If you are not aware of these reports on Nintendo Switch 2, Gamescom was held last month in Germany, and big gaming media like Eurogamer and Video Game Chronicles, aka VGC, now even Digital Foundry, which are a gaming media that specialise in gaming specs and hardware. They really like to get into the nitty-gritty of the specs of gaming hardware. They have come out and they have all collaborated with each other, and they're all saying, yes, that's what I've heard, yes, that's what I've seen, and they've all added in their own experiences as to what they have heard from their reliable sources. Now, I normally don't like to talk about reports. I'm a man of facts. I like to get my information from the horse's mouth. In this case, Nintendo. Sorry, Nintendo, for calling you a horse, but you do have a horse. You do have a horse in Everybody 1-2 Switch, or whatever the hell it's called, the sequel to 1-2 Switch. Anyway, horses aside. Horses aside. I like factual information. I don't like when rumours and reports and leaks just go around in circles, never-ending circles. I just like my information to come directly from the company who is making the games or making the hardware, in this case, Nintendo. But nonetheless, Eurogamer and Video Game Chronicles and Digital Foundry have all come out and said that at Gamescom last month, Nintendo demoed the Nintendo Switch 2 to select developers privately. And what those developers saw was the Switch launch title, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, running in 4K 60 frames per second with significantly faster loading times. Not only that, but developers also saw developers also saw the Matrix Awakens, or is it Matrix Awakening? Unreal Engine 5 tech demo running on Nintendo Switch 2. Sorry, that is not correct. Sorry, that is not correct. That is not correct. That is not correct. Apologies. Apologies. I am wrong. I am wrong. Developers were shown the Matrix Awakens or Awakening. I don't know if it's Awakens or Awakening, and it's actually annoying my head. Let's just call it the Matrix. The Matrix Unreal Engine 5 tech demo running on targeted specs for the Switch 2. So the specs that Nintendo are targeting for the Switch 2, the Matrix Unreal Engine 5 tech demo was running on those targeted specs. I hope that helps. I hope that's easy to understand. So the tech demo wasn't shown on an actual Switch 2. That's done actually a lot in the gaming industry actually. When companies approach developers and showing them even a game, a lot of the time it could be a PS5 game, it could be an Xbox Series X game. A lot of the time that game is actually running off PC specs. So it's common practice. It's common practice. So yes, so at Gamescom, Nintendo showed the Matrix Unreal Engine 5 tech demo to select developers, and it was running off targeted Nintendo Switch 2 specs. And it was using NVIDIA's DLSS technology, which kind of reminds me of ray tracing. I could never quite understand what ray tracing was when the PS5 was launching. No matter how many times I looked at the explanation of ray tracing, it could never quite sink into my brain. But let me try my best to explain what DLSS is. It basically uses the power of AI, artificial intelligence, to create higher resolution and higher frame rates. So NVIDIA's DLSS technology was running on these Nintendo Switch 2 targeted specs, along with advanced ray tracing. So let's put all that together. We have specs that are capable of 4K, 60 frames per second, DLSS technology that can artificially create higher resolutions and higher frame rates, and almost no loading times. Hello, Nicole. How are you? Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. It's afternoon here, but I will say good morning to you nonetheless, Nicole. How are you doing? How is your morning going? How is your day going so far? You're always very welcome to Green Hill Gaming, Nicole. And I once again thank you for your continued support on my channel. It is much appreciated. And I hope that you enjoy. And please join in on the discussion. I'm discussing the possibility that Nintendo could be playing with power again. They used to have a slogan. Nintendo. Now you're playing with power. And they also had a slogan for now you're playing with superpower. They were used for the Nintendo Entertainment System and the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. And Nintendo had significantly powerful hardware up until the Nintendo GameCube. From the Wii onwards, they had inferior consoles, inferior hardware, inferior specs. But when you look at the reports that are doing the rounds on the gaming media with the Switch 2, and you're hearing about Nintendo demoing the Switch 2's targeted specs to select developers privately, and they're showing them Breath of the Wild running in 60 frames per second, 4K, with almost no loading times, and showing those developers the Matrix Unreal Engine 5 tech demo using DLSS technology, which artificially creates a higher resolution and a higher frame rate, you got to wonder, you got to ask yourself the question, is Nintendo playing with power again? I think there's a high chance that they are, because these reports, they're not quite the same as leaks. It's not Jimmy Buckaroo on 4chan claiming that his uncle works at Nintendo and he saw and heard this. We're talking about Eurogamer and Video Game Chronicles and Digital Foundry all coming together saying that Nintendo demoed the targeted specs for Switch 2 to developers in private. So it's more believable and it's more creditable than some random fucker on 4chan or Reddit. So I'd be inclined to actually believe this. What's interesting is that Nintendo are no longer creating consoles. As in home consoles, as in dedicated home consoles that connect up just to your TV. Nintendo are using a completely different chipset to what PlayStation and Microsoft are using, and even what Nintendo would have been using from the NES all the way up to the Wii U. Nintendo are using NVIDIA's mobile chips. Have a look at what Apple can do with mobile chips. Have a look at what Apple can achieve with mobile phone technology. You will be able to play Assassin's Creed Mirage, Death Stranding, and the remake of Resident Evil 4 on your mobile phone with Apple's iPhone 15 Pro. You see, mobile technology is a lot different to console technology. So Nintendo are kind of in uncharted territory. I think they're probably surprising themselves. They're probably surprised themselves. They probably never realized, whoa, we can have very advanced technology in our little device here. Because you have to understand that Nintendo have completely separated themselves now from the competition. Well, they never really did compete with Sony and Microsoft from the Wii onwards, in terms of specs anyway, at least. But they're in a completely different territory. Nintendo is in a completely different territory to Sony and Microsoft because of their chipset. Again, Apple's iPhone 15 Pro is literally going to be capable of running console quality games like the remake of Resident Evil 4. That is absolutely insane. Now, am I saying that Nintendo Switch 2 could be or will be as powerful as a PS5 or as powerful as Apple's iPhone 15 Pro? I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think so. There was a term used. Eurogamer and Video Game Chronicles said that at Gamescom, where the Switch 2's targeted specs was showing to select developers in private, there was a term used, and it was, especially when it came to the Matrix Unreal Engine 5 tech demo, there was a term used, visually comparable to PS5 and Xbox Series X. It doesn't mean exactly the same as. But regardless, because of DLSS technology, and because it's artificial technology, the DLSS technology from NVIDIA can create higher resolution and higher frame rates without the need for raw horsepower. And again, that's because of NVIDIA. That's because of NVIDIA. NVIDIA specialize in mobile technology. So this is the uncharted territory that Nintendo find themselves in. And it actually is quite interesting. So they could have a few advantages to Xbox and PlayStation. Because Xbox and PlayStation are confining themselves to home console specs with home console chipsets. And they work with different companies, and those companies specialize in home consoles, whereas NVIDIA specialize in mobile technology. Now the chip, as I mentioned earlier, the chip that was used in the current Nintendo Switch is a chip from 2015. And the Switch launched in 2017. We're now talking about 2023, and the Switch 2 will more than likely release sometime next year in 2024. So the chip used in this Switch 2 is obviously going to be a lot more advanced than the chip that was used on the current Switch. And look at what the current Switch could do, even with a chip that released in 2015. The Witcher 3 running on Switch. Doom 2016 and Eternal running on Switch. Mortal Kombat 11 and soon to be Mortal Kombat 1 running on Nintendo Switch in 60 frames per second, both handheld and docked. That's a massive achievement. It's a massive technical achievement, even with a chip that came out in 2015. So imagine, and bear in mind all of the reports, the DLSS, the advanced ray tracing, the almost no loading times. Take all those reports into consideration and imagine what Switch 2 could look like. It is quite interesting. I think there's a very strong possibility that Nintendo could be playing with power again, but in their own unique way. I think it's quite an exciting time. It's quite an exciting time for mobile/handheld gaming. You know, playing games away from the TV on the go. I mean, Apple, I made a video about this actually. It should be uploaded by now. If not, it'll be uploaded in at least an hour and a half's time. I made a video discussing Apple's new iPhone 15 Pro and Pro Max. So stay tuned for that. I start off by giving you as much information about those devices as possible, and then I proceed to share my personal thoughts. Now there's a change in tone in that video, okay? At the start, my tone is very informative, very professional. And then halfway through, when I'm giving my thoughts on it, it's my personal thoughts of what I think of the new iPhone and what I think of mobile gaming and what my preferences are. So bear that in mind, but that video should be uploaded at some stage today. So I'm not going to repeat that video in this live stream, but I am fascinated by how mobile gaming has advanced, / handheld gaming. You've got the iPhone 15 Pro and the iPhone 15 Pro Max that is capable, once again, of running games like Death Stranding, Assassin's Creed Mirage, and the remake of Resident Evil 4 on a phone. Crazy. And now you have like Nvidia with Nintendo, and they're partners now, and they're in uncharted territory now because Nintendo is not making dedicated home consoles anymore. They're using a completely different chip set. And because of that different chipset, because of them working with Nvidia, who specializes in mobile gaming and making the most of mobile gaming, I firmly believe that Nintendo will be playing with power again in their own unique way, using Nvidia's technology. And I think it's interesting times. It's incredibly impressive. That should be powerful enough to emulate a lot if iPhone let you. Hopefully they will. You'll be able to emulate pretty much anything. I woke up to the news. I woke up to the news of iPhone 15 Pro running Assassin's Creed Mirage and RE4 Remake, and it blew my mind. It blew my little mind. I am telling you. Because I remember making my holy confirmation, because I'm a Catholic. I was christened a Catholic as well. Yeah. Catholic. Yeah. I'm not religious. I'm not very religious. I won't go into religion, but I'm not religious. But nonetheless, anyway, when I made my confirmation, right, I was about 12, and for my confirmation, I got a phone, and it was one of the Nokia phones, Nokia 3210 or whatever it was, and it had Snake on it. And as with anyone who grew up in the 90s, will tell you how addictively fun Snake was. We all put a lot of hours into playing Snake. I think we all drained our batteries playing Snake. That was the first time that I played a game on a mobile phone, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. So to compare, and that was a little over 20 years, just over 20 years ago, right? Just over 20 years ago that was. And now look at where mobile gaming has come. Literally, RE4 Remake running on Apple's newest phone. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And now Nintendo is technically in that market. Not quite the mobile phone, smartphone market, but using mobile chips. So we all see how quickly mobile chips have advanced. Look at gaming. Look at how long it took for gaming to go from, I keep doing this, sorry. To go from Pac-Man to Uncharted. Okay? Took a hell of a long time. I would say like it took around 30 years, right, to go from Pac-Man to Uncharted. It took little over 20 years to go from Snake to RE4 Remake on phones. So Nintendo is now in that market. Nintendo are now using those mobile chips, knowing how quickly they can advance. And again, if you look at the current Switch, for what it is, again, it's essentially a tablet with 2 controllers attached to it. It has a chip from 2015, it's a mobile chip from 2015 from NVIDIA, yet it can have The Witcher 3 running on it. It can have Mortal Kombat 1 and soon to be, Mortal Kombat 11, soon to be 1, running in 60 frames per second, both in handheld and docked. That's extremely impressive for a 2015 chip and for a system that launched in 2017. So considering how fast mobile chips and mobile technology advances, and considering all the reports that are going around about the Switch 2 being demoed at Gamescom showing DLSS technology, 60 frames per second, 4K, almost no loading times, advanced ray tracing, man, it's going to be exciting. It's going to be exciting to see what happens. It's going to be exciting to see what happens. It's crazy to see how far it's come. It really is. It's just mind-blowing. You've got to respect it. No matter what your preferences are as a gamer, you've got to respect how far mobile gaming has come. Absolutely. Absolutely. But I'm going to try not to talk too much about the whole Apple iPhone 15 thing, because I made a video about that and I want people to watch that video. Watch that video! But this is just kind of like entertaining these reports, entertaining the possibility that Nintendo could be playing with power. Now, I've used very specific wording here, like possibility, could, entertaining the idea. Like none of this is official. None of this is official. Nintendo could announce the Virtual Boy 2, for Christ's sake. None of this is official. None of this is confirmation. But it is, however, creditable reports that are backed up by multiple people. So, but even with that, though, anyone who knows me knows I like my information to be solid, factual information. Okay, not hearsay, or well, it actually isn't hearsay. It's backed up by credible sources, but nonetheless, anyway. But it's fun, and I think the more I'm talking about it, actually now, the more that I'm thinking about it now, what's really interesting me the most is the fact that Nintendo is in this new territory for the first time that they've never really been quite in. See, Nintendo has always had a separate, up until the Switch, Nintendo has had a separate business strategy for their home consoles and their handheld systems. In fact, they had separate buildings, separate offices that would specialize in the development of handhelds and the development of home consoles. Now it's in the one building, it's in the one place because of the Switch. It's uncharted territory, completely uncharted territory for Nintendo here, and I think they're going to surprise themselves with this partnership with NVIDIA, considering what they can do with mobile chips, considering what they can do with DLSS technology, which artificially creates a higher frame rate and a higher resolution. I think Nintendo are going to surprise themselves of what they can achieve on their next system. So what do you think, Nicole? I'll throw it out to you. Do you think Nintendo will play with power again? Do you think Nintendo will find this balance of surprising and delighting and entertaining its consumers with fun and innovation with powerful technology that can have games being visually comparable to PS5 and Xbox Series X? What do you think? And anyone else watching as well. Feel free, join in on the conversation. Let Johnny know what you all think as you listen to some classic Sonic music in the background. It's very important, though, to understand, once again, that visually comparable to PS5 and Xbox Series X doesn't necessarily mean that it's identical to PS5 and Xbox Series X. But it's nonetheless, though, it's, again, the word I keep using is interesting. It's interesting, and I've actually spoke about this a few times now, it's interesting that Nintendo would decide to showcase the Matrix Unreal Engine 5 tech demo. That is, right now, the most visually impressive tech demo on the market. So the fact that Nintendo would choose that, deliberately make a conscious decision to choose that tech demo for showcasing the targeted specs for Switch 2. I mean, that's not something that you can overlook. I've seen people online overlooking it. You know, why wouldn't they use Unreal Engine 5? You know, but they could have used a different tech demo. They could have showcased some indie game running Unreal Engine 5, tech demo. But the fact that they deliberately chose the Matrix tech demo is an interesting choice, I think. It's an interesting choice indeed. DLSS technology is also interesting. Artificial technology. I don't know how I feel about that, personally. I don't know how I feel about artificial intelligence, like artificially increasing the frame rate and artificially increasing the resolution. That has to be that remains to be seen in terms of how I feel about that. But it's interesting. It's interesting, nonetheless. I mean, that could be Nintendo's way. And again, I believe that DLSS technology, that's NVIDIA's technology. That is only possible on NVIDIA, I believe, anyway. And again, Nintendo is NVIDIA's partner with the Switch, and now soon to be Switch 2. DLSS technology from NVIDIA could be Nintendo's ace up their sleeve to directly compete with Sony and Microsoft in the area of visuals. Maybe not like identical to PS5 and Xbox Series X, but have identical frame rates, identical resolution. Interesting times that we are facing here with the Switch 2. I'm excited for more powerful Switch 2 or whatever it is. Imagine how much more crazy ports it can have. And me and you both, Nicole, me and you both, I would absolutely love the concept of Nintendo coming back, playing with power. I just think it would send shockwaves across the industry. Just imagine this for a second. Nintendo announce on social media on a random Monday evening, you're sitting down having a cup of coffee and you're scrolling through your news feeds on your social media and you see, tune in tomorrow 3 p.m. to see the future of Nintendo. So you tune in the following day at 3 p.m. and you see the Switch 2. Now, as to what it is, I made a video about that. Check it out. Trying to predict the Switch 2. Check it out. Check it out, bro. Check it out, sis. Check it out, uncle, father, mother, everyone. Check it out. So no, I'm not going to go into the ins and outs of what it could be here, but they show it. And then they start randomly showing some games. A bit like when the NX got revealed on a random October day. I was working. I ran! No shoes or nothing, Jesus. No, but I ran home. I was steaming. I was working in a charity shop. And I was steaming the clothes. And I swear to God, the thing was fucking cremated. I steamed it. As soon as it was lunchtime, okay, because she allowed me to go home and have a 30-minute break. I literally ran home and I sat down and I watched the unveiling of the NX, and it would become the Switch. But no, do you know the way in that tease, we saw games like Skyrim. Just imagine now, with all these reports doing the rounds on gaming media about DLSS technology, 4K, 60 frames per second, advanced ray tracing, no loading times. Imagine you see, now this is a wild one, but just imagine you see, not that I care about this game, not that I care about the series anymore, but imagine you see Grand Theft Auto 6 on this device. Just imagine the kind of shockwaves that would send across the gaming industry. And then, of course, it officially gets announced, GTA 6, all platforms, big massive reveal. But imagine it was shown on the Switch 2 as a definitive way to communicate to consumers, this is what Switch 2 is capable of. That would be absolutely, I wouldn't buy it, but that would be absolutely insane, as in GTA 6 that is. But that would be absolutely insane to see. And yeah, it would be so interesting to see what kind of ports would come over to Switch 2. Because as we all know, and as I stated numerous times now in this stream, like we already know what the current Switch can do when it comes to ports. The Batman trilogy is coming over to Switch, as far as a port is concerned. Next week, Mortal Kombat 1 is going to be ported over to Nintendo Switch. And if it's anything like Mortal Kombat 11, you know, we're going to be getting 60 frames per second, both in handheld and docked. Nintendo are on a completely new horizon because of their partnership with NVIDIA, because of the technology that NVIDIA can only provide with DLSS technology. So let the craziness commence. Yeah, it's very exciting stuff. Indeed it is. Indeed it is. But I am going to make that prediction though. I spoke about this in my fun prediction stream for the Switch 2, but I think the reveal is going to be pretty much identical to the Switch reveal. I honestly think you're going to be sitting down with a cup of tea in one hand and your phone in the other hand, and you're going to be scrolling through your news feed and you're going to see a post from one of Nintendo's social media, and it's literally going to say something along the lines of tune in tomorrow, such a time, to see the future of Nintendo, something like that. And then the following day, there will be this tease of the Switch 2. And they'll even call it whatever they call it. If it's a Switch 2, they'll call it Switch 2. But we will see the name of this, and we will get a look at it, and we'll get a glimpse of what games. And then they'll say at the end of the tease, they will say full reveal at such a time, more than likely probably about a month or two later. Tune in for the big reveal, and then of course you get the big reveal, you get the developers on stage talking about games that are going to be coming, talking about what this console can do, and everything else in between. Like I don't think it's going to be announced at Game Awards. I mean, Microsoft may want to, you know, reveal their consoles at the Game Awards, but Phil Spencer is the strange kind of a guy anyway. Nintendo are going to want to have their own space, their own time, their own way to reveal their console. It's not Jeff Keighley's console. You know what I mean? It's like Nintendo will want to have their own space to do this. You know, they'll do it their own way. It won't be in some random Nintendo Direct. I'm telling you, it will be a social media post to get everyone aware that they're going to show this thing the following day, or maybe 2 days later, or something like that. And people will all tune in, and then there'll be a massive reveal a couple of months down the road, and then a couple of months after that, it will launch. Trust me, that's what's going to happen. Also, speaking of Nintendo and predictions, I think a lot of people are going to be really upset at the end of today. Because everyone just assumed, again, I love when people do this, everyone just assumed. And the exact same thing could happen with the Switch 2 as well, bear in mind, and all these reports that are going around. Everyone just assumed that there was going to be a Nintendo Direct this week. Well, today is Wednesday, last time I checked. It's almost 3 p.m. I'm going on to social media right now. I'm going on to Facebook right now. I'm scrolling through. I'm scrolling through. I'm scrolling through. No mention of a Direct. I'm telling you, if there is going to be a Direct this week, and I said it before, and I'll say it again, it's going to be a Direct Mini. And if I have to take it one step further, I'd say it's going to be a developer. It's going to be a like a partner developer showcase type Direct Mini, as in it'll be all third-party games. And I think Mortal Kombat 1 has to be shown, because we haven't seen any gameplay of Mortal Kombat 1 on Switch. So I'm guessing it'll be shadow dropped, maybe between 4 or 5 o'clock, something along the lines of that anyway. Who knows? Could be wrong, they could announce it. See, I think normally Nintendo announce a Direct 2 days beforehand. Or am I wrong? I'm not quite sure, but people are they're gonna go very quiet. I'm telling you, they're gonna go very quiet. My YouTube newsfeed, my Facebook newsfeed is going to be very, very quiet tonight, because they're gonna have egg on their face. They're gonna have egg on their face. That's why I never really kind of entertain like rumors and leaks and reports too much. I don't even entertain this too much. I just think it's just a fun stream to put together. It's a fun question to throw out there. Will Nintendo Player Power again? You know, putting all the kind of reports together. Like I haven't went into any of the crazy, you know, leaks or anything like that. It's just for a bit of fun, really. I am going to sit down now. So if anybody else wants to join in on the discussion, please feel free, because I'm tired. There's only so much talking I can do. Sonic Boom. The thing is, if you kind of look at Nintendo and how they approach the Switch, it's pretty obvious that they looked at where they went wrong with the Wii U in every area and just jumped into the deep end to fix every one of those issues as best as possible. A steady flow of games during the launch window and after the launch window. Evident right away. I mean, look at the games that came to Switch early on in its life cycle. It literally launched with Breath of the Wild. You had a fantastic, it is a port, but a fantastic deluxe port of Mario Kart 8, which is still being supported to this day with additional tracks and even characters. You had brand new IP like ARMS, Super Mario Odyssey. I'm pretty sure all that happened within the 1 year. Splatoon 2. All that within the 1 year. That is insane. And it obviously it kept going after that. You know, Animal Crossing, Smash Brothers, new Kirby games, Yoshi games. It's just non-stop flow of quality Nintendo games that people expect from Nintendo. The marketing was very, very clear. It was very, very crystal clear what this device was compared to the Wii U. the thing is, Nintendo would surely be looking at the issues that the Switch faced, and I think anybody will tell you, like, one of the biggest issues that people have with Switch is the ports. Like, it's nice that games can get ported over to the Switch, and it's nice you can play those games on the go, but there is still the elephant in the room for Nintendo. Ever since they went down a different road, ever since they left the power game, it's the fact that when a game gets brought over the Switch, it doesn't run as well and it doesn't look as well. Not that it's terrible, but it doesn't look as good. And I think people have been very vocal about that. And even Nintendo's own games. Look at Pokemon Violet and Scarlet. Nintendo's own games struggle on their own hardware. That's got to be something that Nintendo has to be looking at. So I think that Nintendo, what they did with the Switch, I think they're going to have to look at the issues, the mistakes, not so much mistakes, but just issues with the Switch, and they're going to have to address them. And I think that what we are hearing about DLSS technology from NVIDIA could be a way of taking care of that. Oh God, it's actually hard to keep these streams going. Do you know what is interesting as well? Is I could be doing a stream of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, right? Or Uno. I could be streaming Uno and Who Wants to Be a Millionaire at some random time of the day. And I could have like 5, 6, 7 people watching, new viewers joining, all of my regulars in the stream. And I'm just like sitting there trying to play Who Wants to Be a Millionaire or something. And then I'd stop playing and we all just have a random chat. And then when I'm trying to do a discussion live stream, it's literally just one person. And it just can't keep the conversation going. It's strenuous. It really is. This is, like, I want this to be like a thing of dialogue. Like, I want to say a few things and then I want my viewers to say a few things. I don't want to put pressure on anyone to comment either. But it's hard to keep it going. It's hard to keep it going, like. But it's interesting. Okay, I don't think I actually had this kind of conversation with the Switch, with the NX. I was just more caught up with trying to predict the NX. That was really fun. That was really fun, and it was very fun when I actually accurately predicted the Switch. But this is different though, because it's even though I have made a fun prediction of what I think the Switch 2 could be, and I'm not going to repeat that because I want you to watch it. Please watch my video. Or was it a stream? It was a stream. But I never quite kind of discussed, like, you know, the ins and outs of like the hardware and stuff like that. But it's interesting. So I think it's very possible that Nintendo could be playing with power again. Imagine they somehow kind of included that slogan, like brought back that slogan, redefining power, or something like that. Yeah. I was actually hoping to have the Matrix Unreal Engine 5 demo running in the background, but I think that it's no longer available to play. I didn't realize it was actually using servers, but when I went to play it, it said unable to connect. It happened about 3 or 4 times. I even reloaded the game, like I exited the game, went back in, and it still had the issue. So I don't know what that was, but because I was hoping to actually show it, like, and say, like, you know, is this what Switch 2 could look like? You know, because that is what the likes of Eurogamer and Video Game Chronicles and even Digital Foundry are reporting, that Nintendo showcased that tech demo, that Matrix Unreal Engine 5 tech demo, to select developers in private on targeted Switch 2 specs. So I think that would have been a lot more effective if I was able to stream that tech demo. It would have been a lot more effective. Part of me thinks of it just more powerful. It might not sell as well. That is a fucking, excuse my French, that is a fantastic point. And I'm actually glad you brought that up, actually, because I completely missed that as well. That is so important. That is critical. I'll cut that too for a slogan. Really? Interesting. We think alike. But that is such an interesting point. Can Nintendo just rely on power alone? What if they don't do enough to innovate this hardware? Considering that is Nintendo's bread and butter. That's been their bread and butter ever since the DS and the Wii. Innovation, exciting and delighting its consumers by doing something that hasn't been done before. I don't think we have anything to worry about, but it's very good that you brought that up. But I do recall the Nintendo president, as recent as this month, actually talking about the very topic of innovation and delighting and surprising consumers by giving them an experience they haven't experienced before. So I think that the current Nintendo president is very aware of like being able to innovate, delight and surprise their consumers. And he also mentioned a while back that he can't just do what the Wii U did and just rely on the success of the Switch, for the Switch 2 to be successful. So I think he's very aware of these things, thankfully, hopefully. But I think he is. But nonetheless, that's a very, very, very important point. Like, what if the Switch 2 is literally just a redesigned Switch, redesigned Joy-Cons, a bigger screen, better battery life, maybe they just, throw in streaming capabilities, and it's powerful. Like, will that be enough? Like, that'll just be a Switch Pro, won't it? If you stop and think about it, that's just a Switch Pro. That would be like when PlayStation released the PS4 Pro. That is the difference between the Switch 2 being successful or it being a flop, as far as I'm concerned. Will power alone do the job? But I do think there will be something. I spoke about this in my prediction live stream. I'm not going to say it because I want people to watch it. But I do have an idea of what they could do to make this innovative. But it is interesting, though, that that's the only discussion that people have had. That's the only thing that people heard of at Gamescom was the specs. Breath of the Wild running in 60 frames per second, 60 frames per second, 4K, no loading times. The Matrix Unreal Engine 5 tech demo. It's all being about power. It's all being about specs. DLSS technology, advanced ray tracing. Where's the big Nintendo innovation? Where's this? But then again, though, they mightn't have, because apparently they didn't actually show the console. Apparently it was just targeted specs. It was just basically, because the thing, I don't know much about game development and hardware development, but how it works is you basically replicate those specs on, this was more than likely a computer. This is more than likely a PC, a custom-built PC that has targeted specs on the Switch 2. That's more than likely what people were looking at. It probably wasn't even the device. Because maybe Nintendo didn't want to take any chances. Maybe they didn't want, Phil Spencer to be popping his head in. We all know that he's lurking around Nintendo events lately. Maybe they didn't want Phil Spencer popping his head in saying, oh, that looks like an interesting controller. Or Jim Ryan just casually strolling through, oh, that looks like an interesting controller, and copy the idea for the actual design of the console and design of the controller. So maybe that's all it was intended to do at that particular time, was to showcase the specs. But knowing Nintendo, and what I just said earlier about the Nintendo president saying that he is aware that he can't just rely on the success of Switch alone to sell a Switch 2, and that they're all, as a company, they're always aware of delighting and surprising their fans. I think there's nothing to worry about, personally, in that regard. Whew. So what else? So, what matters to you, Nicole? What matters to you in a console? What matters to you in a console? Is it raw horsepower and high-end specs? Or is it just being able to play your games in a fun way, and just being able to play your games basically. Just you know, but I suppose if that was the case, there wouldn't be need for. Like I think the hardware is important. The hardware is important because if the hardware wasn't important and it was only games that mattered, well then you wouldn't really need to buy a new console, just new games released. Obviously, I suppose you need the games to look. Yeah, but I'm gonna have to kind of like, not confusing myself, but it's like it's not just the games alone that matter. Like, you know, like you do have to kind of introduce like a new way of experiencing those games. You know, whether it's the innovation of Nintendo, whether it's the innovation of PlayStation with the haptic feedbacks and adaptive triggers and 3D audio, you have to add something. You have to add something new to the experience. You know, it can't just be like, okay, here's the exact same console you bought 5, 6, 7 years ago, but with just better graphics. You know, I think that's the reason we got PS5. I think Nintendo finally realized that they can't do that. They can't just release a new box, slap on the new logo, and say buy me. You know, that they couldn't just release a beefier version of the PS4 and call it a PS5. They realized that they had to introduce 3D audio, haptic feedback, adaptive triggers, SSD technology to give the gamer a new experience. So yeah, I do think that the hardware is pivotal. So in closing, what do my viewers think? There's 3 people watching, but I'm guessing that the only person that's going to comment is Nicolet, which is okay. What matters to you for a console? Like what would be like your like what do you want from a console? I'll answer while you're typing, while you're thinking of an answer. For me, it's what I just said. I like to have a different experience. I want to be able to experience something that hasn't been seen before, heard before. Just experience before. I want a new experience. I want something new, not just from the point of view of graphics, not just from the point of view of, frame rates and resolution, but just something different because of the hardware. Like, I'd even use an example of Grand Theft Auto. Yeah, Grand Theft Auto on PlayStation 1, I'm going to give as an example of me getting a completely different experience. And it's something you may not expect, the CD-ROM technology. Because of the CD-ROM technology in PS1, for the first time, I could listen to music as I'm playing the game. I'm driving through Liberty City, right, and Vice City and San Andreas in GTA 1 and PS1, and I'm listening to an actual radio in the game with actual CD quality music. That was different at the time for me. So that's an example of using the technology in the hardware to give you a different experience in the game. I've recently played it mainly handheld. So you would be a handheld gamer, so you'd want something that is targeted to your handheld experience. So I'd imagine you'd want something comfortable that you can hold in your hand for long periods of time, long battery life, and maybe like a really like advanced screen. So when you're out in the boat and the sun is shining, a screen that can kind of combat shine. That's something as well that Switch 2 could actually have, kind of incorporate something like that, like where it can kind of like tackle glare basically. I think the best way to tackle glare literally is to put on a pair of sunglasses. It actually has worked for me because it works the same way. Like, I mean, if you have no sunglasses and you can't see because of the sun, and you put on sunglasses and all of a sudden you can see, it's going to work the same thing. It's going to work the same way on a console. Just put on a pair of sunglasses. Problem solved. Okay. So that is it. Is Nintendo playing with power again? There's a high chance there's a high possibility that they are. If the likes of Eurogamer and VGC are coming out and saying that Nintendo's targeted specs were shown to developers in private at Gamescom, where Breath of the Wild was running in 4K 60 frames per second, and the Matrix Unreal Engine 5 tech demo was shown with advanced ray tracing and DLSS technology, yeah, I think there's a high chance, especially considering that now Nintendo are in new territory. They're not just making home consoles with the chipset found in them. They're working with NVIDIA now. So thanks so much for watching, and I will see you next time on Greenhill Gaming.